bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go.
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go.
And a good football Monday, Birds fans. Appreciate you streaming on in with us here on Birds 365. You got your Mac and Mac duo, John McMullen and Jody McDonald, here to hang with you for the next couple hours. Couple good guests coming your way, and a pretty good practice recap from our guy, John McMullen, boots on the ground down there at Eagles practice, sweating it out on Friday. But not too shabby yesterday, Johnny Mac. I got outside at about 10:30, 11 o'clock yesterday. I said, oh, nice day today. Eagles must be putting in some good work.
It was beautiful. Longest practice they have. So, yeah, that wasn't because of the weather. That's just the schedule. But, yeah, it was beautiful. You can't complain, especially after Friday. It was oppressive, as they say, to say the least.
That's what summer practices are all about. You get some work in now, it'll make you stronger come December, right?
Yeah, that's the theory, but the NFL has changed. We talk about it all the time. I was just reading about Mike McDaniel in Miami. He's shifted gears toward more of an Eagle philosophy, I see from some of the reporters down there. So, I mean, it's not just the Eagles. They tend to be ahead of the curve, and now it seems like a lot of teams are following their lead. Maybe not to the extent, but similar type of things, because significant change for him down there. And it's very similar to what the Eagles are doing, have a practice day, then a rest or a walkthrough or not, and try to keep those doubled up days as slim as possible, as few as possible, which seems to be the Eagles' thought process as well.
Might have something to do with Jalen Ramsey not being able to play till December now because he got hurt in a practice.
That's stuff. I mean, like the torn meniscus, he tore his meniscus. That kind of stuff is like, there's not much you can do about it. Talking to Dallas Goedert the other day, he was talking about his injury. I mean, 300-pound guy falls on your shoulder. I mean, there's not much sports science can do about that. But with the soft tissue stuff, I think Joe Burrow's the better example, because he showed up one day and then he got sore and he had the calf sleeve on because he was sore. And all of a sudden he's got a strained calf the next day. And then you start thinking, well, maybe there's something to this. And they dodged a bullet that it's not more serious. But injuries, torn ACLs, Achilles, meniscus, sports science not helping you with that stuff.
And the one thing for sure, if you're sitting in an air-conditioned room, you're probably not going to get hurt. But if you're out there on the field, even a non-contact injury is a possibility. So that's why the Eagles may be a leader in the clubhouse, but it seems like all NFL teams believing that they can get ready for a season as much in the classroom as they can out there in the field. We'll see how it plays out leading into the season. All right. The 2 days of practice that you've seen since you were last here with us on Birds 365, hot as heck on Friday, nice yesterday. Give us a little recap of guys who jumped up for you and looked good, at least as per your reporting, everybody else is reporting. I'm guessing that Nick Sirianni was in a good mood after yesterday's practice because Quez Watkins might have had as good a practice as anybody else out there.
Yeah, he was good. He was, and I think part of it is like it's one of those problems with those statistics that you'll read in certain places. I mean, day one was about red zone, and I asked Nick about that. That's it's got sort of a dual purpose in that on the first day they don't want guys running all out 60 yards. They want closed, confined spaces, so that's why they kind of do it the way they do it. Day two was about installing a lot of the running game. So there wasn't, you didn't hear a lot of stuff about the receivers. I mean, very few targets because they weren't working on that. And Sunday was third down day, third down jamboree, as they call it. So a lot of passing. The guys got more involved. The receivers got, and they showed up more magically. But Quez had a good day. And I think, nobody doubts Quez's athleticism and the fact that he can run. I think with him, it's about consistency. So, can he back that up on Tuesday when they're back on the practice field? I think that's the thing you got to watch with Quez Watkins, consistency and that kind of stuff. And the acclimation period ends today. So the Eagles can put on the pads tomorrow if they want to.
All right, let's get the first Johnny Mac prediction of the day.
Yeah, I assume they will.
Will they?
It was funny, because Nick was asked about. People joke that Zach Berman and I are the only ones who know the acclimation period, and Nick was asked when he could put the pads on, and even he didn't know yesterday, which I found kind of funny. But he can put them on Tuesday. I assume they will. My prediction would be that they will be on because he kept saying yesterday, no matter what question he got, specifically with offensive lineman, Cam Jurgens, defensive lineman, whether it's Nolan Smith or Jalen Carter, running backs, got to put the pads on, got to wait, especially with those positions. And he's right. And people are going to start separating themselves when the pad comes on. That's how Reed Blankenship made this team last year. They're like, Reed's here, undrafted rookie. Not then the pads come on. They're like, whoa, it's a little bit different. 5-year starter, physical. They said the same thing about Alex Singleton when he came back from the CFL. All spring, they were like, he's a really smart guy, down at the bottom of the depth chart. Then the pads came on and it was like, whoop, shot straight up. So it does make a big difference.
Does in the evaluation of the players, and some guys did kind of flash here these first couple of days. Know full well I'm doing this with tongue firmly implanted in cheek. Shame on Christian Ellis. What happened? Stopped intercepting the ball. Didn't get picks these last couple of days. He was like the number one interceptor of the Philadelphia Eagles through the early OTAs and the first day of practice. They decided to stop throwing at Christian Ellis. Johnny Mac?
Well, as I said, I mean, those things are kind of the fact that he was 3 for 3, 2 OTAs, and then day one is pretty phenomenal in this era. And as I said, they didn't work a lot on the passing game, at least as a whole in the first two practices. It was more ramped up on day 3. And he's clearly, he's clear. And when I say clearly, I mean clearly the Eagles' best coverage linebacker. Now, in one-on-ones, he kind of locked down Kenny Gainwell twice in back-to-back. It was actually 7-on-7s. And that's pretty impressive for a linebacker. I'm intrigued by him. I think, he's got a chance to win the job from Nicholas Morrow, but I can't sit here and say that's a strength for the Eagles. As far as coverage goes, yeah, he's been interceptions kind of come, you need a lot of things to go right. And they're not going to be consistent every single day, especially with linebackers. But to me, it's more impressive that those back-to-back Gainwell reps are more impressive than the interceptions. Sometimes the pass rush hits home and they just throw it to you. That happened to Bradbury. Mariota under fire, 3rd and 15 was the sequence. He just threw the ball right to Bradbury. Bradbury's a great corner, savvy corner. But it's one of those, it was a gift for him. And that's an interception. The practice on day one, a lot of people said that was also Marcus throwing it to Christian. A lot of people said that if you read it, threw it right to him. To me, it's more impressive when he locks down Kenny Gainwell, even though it didn't result in an interception.
All right, but you got to be able to make the INT. Sometimes they throw the ball right to you and oops, specifically linebackers. Defensive backs supposed to have good hands like wide receivers. Linebackers, not so much. Even a gifted interception, you give the guy a little credit for it. And Christian Ellis's opening eyes, at least as per your writings, other people's writings yesterday, DeAndre Swift, something you and I have talked about plenty since basically they acquired DeAndre Swift. How much is DeAndre Swift going to be part of the passing game here in Philadelphia? Throwing to the ball to the backside of the backfield last year was a minimal, at best, part of the Eagles' overall offense. They just didn't do it a lot, whether it was because they didn't have confidence in the guys they were potentially throwing the ball to, or it's not a strength of Jalen Hurts, the screen pass, or the check down when they get to the 3rd or 4th. Jalen Hurts taking off. Boom. He's up the field. That means he's not dumping the ball off. But DeAndre Swift has opened some eyes. So do you believe that the Eagles will work hard at making guys out of the backfield, mostly Swift, but Gainwell as well, a bigger part of the offense this year than it was last year?
Yes and no. I think there'll be more design plays for DeAndre catching the football. But obviously when you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, it's not going to be, any kind of focus. What I have noticed is that they're trying to get him involved. Like yesterday, they essentially started practice after individuals working on bubble screens. My favorite play. Ugliest play in football, maybe besides the tush push, but and they weren't very good at that last year. One of the few things they weren't good at, and I don't think anybody's that good at it, but it's become a staple in the NFL. And I think he's got a better chance to make something of those plays than some of the people they were using on them last year, because he's a running back. He's got the ability to make that first guy miss. That's what you got to do on that play. Essentially, you got to make somebody miss, and all of a sudden, especially if you can ramp up the speed, you might have something. And I think he can do that. So I think there's going to be more design plays for him. You and I have talked about it. We're on the same page with that. I just don't think Jalen Hurts is a dump off guy. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of dumping it off to the back. But it will increase design plays for the running back as a receiver will increase, because DeAndre can do it. And he's already proven he can do it in Detroit. He's already proven he can do it here the first couple of days. He's legit. He's a really good receiver coming out of the backfield. So I think they will utilize it. But again, you have a pecking order, and the design of this offense is to get the ball. And A.J. Brown has looked unbelievable. Just if somebody at that level can get better, he's done it. And we know Devontae and how good he is. And we know Dallas Goedert and how good he is. I mean, that's the focus of this offense. And Nick says it constantly. Those are the three guys the passing offense is built upon. That's not changing.
But balance is a key. What can make those guys on the outside even more effective is if you can't cheat on him, if you have to protect against the fact that you're going to throw the ball to a guy out of the backfield every once in a while. If you know it's going downfield every single play, yeah, you sit back more in zone and double coverage and you cheat a safety that way. When you actually have to play a fair and balanced defense, it gets even tougher to stop those studs on the outside. So I can see where the Eagles would like to add a little bit more to it and the guys out of the backfield getting the ball via the air. And I'll disagree with your statement on the ugliest play in football being the bubble screen. It all comes down to how it works. If you hit on a bubble screen, you get the right block, you get the receiver to make that first man miss. Oh, it's going to be a beautiful play. It can be a
yeah, but that's what I'm talking about, Jody. Yeah, I know that, but the percentage of it working is not great. So yeah, when you hit it, unless you have that hormone in your body that makes you forget things, it doesn't make me forget the 12 times it didn't work. So I think
you're suggesting 11 times it's a failure once it's
yeah, I don't like that percentage. Especially when you have.
I don't agree with 11 out of 12 being a failure.
I might be exaggerating for effect, but 11 out of 12 is a failure.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
I don't think that would be the actual.
Yeah, it doesn't work a lot, and it hasn't worked a lot for this particular team. And it's become a staple in college football, and it's ugly there. And it's either ugly for the offense or defense because either you're so god awful defensively, like you're a Big 12 team, you can't stop a simple play, or you have no imagination on offense and you can't go to anything else. So you keep doing the same thing. You know me in the modern sports, it's a math. And I've talked about this at length with Shane Steichen, who I love. So it's not like it's a math equation. You got an extra man, you take advantage of it. You often get out of the play you called because you see, oh, we got an advantage, and just throw it out there and hope somebody hits the block. It's sort of like it's the ugly part of modern football because you don't have a lot of practice time. We talk about that ad nauseam. So you try to get things accomplished that are easier to do and easier to teach because you don't have the time to teach the really involved stuff, the Bill Walsh stuff, all that kind of stuff. So I get it, but it's not pretty. Aesthetically, can it work? Yes. Aesthetic. I'm just talking pure aesthetics. That's what I'm talking about. It's an ugly football play.
And I disagree with your characterization. It all comes down to how the play goes. When it works, I think it's a very pretty play. I think it's a very exciting play. When it fails, it's as ugly as all get out. Yes, you and I are in agreement on that, but I think you're rolling the dice. Maybe not 50-50, but 60-40. Surely not 95-5. If you have good players who can do what is required on a bubble screen, it can be a really effective play. And maybe DeAndre.
Well, I want to see the team that's successful 60, maybe a college team, maybe Alabama playing Wofford. Maybe they're successful 60% of the time with that nonsense, but not at the NFL level. I'd love to see a team succeed on that thing 60% of the time. Ain't happening.
Yeah, it's a 40-60. I'm with you. More often than not, it's not as effective, but it can be effective. You just got to have the right guys on the field, one of which may be DeAndre Swift, which, oh, by the way, on my CBS show this weekend, I got some pushback from Lion fans when I continued to say I think the Lions are a little overhyped and overrated coming into the season. So I guess we got a good Detroit affiliate, so I got a little bit of a pushback from Detroit people. I'll go on record right here, right now. DeAndre Swift will put up better numbers this year than Jahmyr Gibbs. And the Lions had a pretty good backfield grouping last year with Williams with all the touchdowns to DeAndre Swift, and they said, we're moving off both of them. Why? I'm not altogether too sure. And, oh, by the way, drafting Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, you got him for 5 more years, and the whole throw the tag on him if you want that the NFL went through this year with Jacobs and Saquon and the like. I get it. You got control of him for that much longer, and DeAndre was on his last year of his contract. But He's making half of what Jahmyr Gibbs is making this year, counting on the cap. Half. And Jahmyr Gibbs hasn't had an NFL carry yet. And they decided to overdraft Jahmyr Gibbs and make him one of the key elements of their team when they already had a guy who could get it done like DeAndre Swift. So, Jody Mack on the record right here, right now, DeAndre Swift in Philadelphia will have a more productive year than overdrafted Jahmyr Gibbs will have in Detroit. But if you listen to Lion fans, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be the next.
Well, you got to have optimism. You got to have They definitely overdrafted him. There's no question about that. But Lions fans will argue they overdrafted DeAndre Swift at the top of the second round because he didn't, he topped out at whatever it was, 613 yards, I think, as a runner. They were expecting him to be a 1,300 yard guy. Now, maybe he is here because of the offensive line, but Detroit was in the conversation for having the second.
Yeah, they got a good offensive line. I had no excuse. Their offensive line is fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, they look at him as a disappointment. Eagles fans are going to look at him as saying a new toy. He's got, and if he ever puts it together, he's got tremendous talent. But to be fair to the Detroit fans, he never put it together. In Detroit for what they were expecting and expectations. We talk about that a lot with Derek Barnett. They expected more. So he's a disappointment to them. Now he comes to a new city, gets a second chance, and everybody's hyped up. And that's normal. That's usually what happens.
Let me ask you a question. Like I said, second round back, not first round back, second round back. First year, 900 and change yards combined with 10 touchdowns. 10 touchdowns. Year number one for Jahmyr Gibbs. You calling that a disappointment?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I think fans do. I think fans.
Well, I'm not. I don't give a flying fart about the Detroit fans. Apparently, they're showing they don't know football enough. I'm giving you that much credit that I'll take your word for it. 900 yards combined, passing and rushing, and 10 touchdowns. Second year, 617 on the ground, 452 in the air, over 1,000 yards and 7 more touchdowns. Oh, terribly disappointing year. What are you talking about, Detroit fans? That's perfectly fine for a second-round running back who's sharing time in the backfield. And, oh, by the way, he missed 3 games each of his first 2 years, and last year he missed 2 games, rushed for 500, caught for almost 400, 900 yards again, and 8 touchdowns. How the hell is that disappointing, John? How dumb can Detroit fans be to go, oh, my God, DeAndre Swift 3 years here in Detroit was so disappointing.
He was a solid player, and they thought he was going to be a star player. It's the same. It happens all the time. And you mentioned second-round pick. Yeah, but there's a big difference between 35 and 64.
Where'd they take Jahmyr Gibbs?
12.
Oh,
they
okay.
expect a
lot.
All
right. Like I said, let's compare Jahmyr Gibbs' rookie season to DeAndre Swift's rookie season. So if DeAndre Swift's rookie season, from where he was picked and what expectations were, Jahmyr Gibbs might run him out of town.
Oh, if he doesn't perform, and I started this conversation saying he was overdrafted, no question about it. They overdrafted him because even if he is a star, they overdrafted him because they could have gotten him later in the process. So that to me is not even a question. I'm just talking about from the perspective of what Swift was sold as to that fan base. That's it. So when you have those expectations, and it happens in every NFL city, and you don't live up to them, you become a disappointment. That's just the way it works. It's often not fair. I say it all the time. It's not fair at times. He was a solid football player. They thought he was going to be better. They certainly thought he was going to be better running the football. I don't think, but you were dealing with I don't deal with the Lions fans that much. I don't think they would complain about him as a receiver, but the running aspect of it, they were expecting more. I think that's fair to say.
4.6, 4.1, 5.5 yards per carry last year. 5.5 yards. Disappointed in that? Well, when was the last time the Lions won? They won one playoff game in 40 years? Oh, yeah, it's all Jahmyr Gibbs. It's all DeAndre Swift fault. and the underachieving 3 years.
Well, I don't think they said all, but if you take a kid 35, forget about Jahmyr Gibbs. You take any running back 35, any team in the NFL, you expect that guy at some point to be a bell cow. You expect that guy to be your number one back, your lead back, whatever terminology you want to use. That's the expectation at that position in this era. 35 is essentially you're a top running back. It's weird when you're drafted at 12. It's even weirder when you're drafted at 8, as we see with the devaluation of running backs all over the league. If you're picked at 35, any team, any city, if the Eagles did it, they took Miles at 53, expecting him to be a lead back. Any back, any city, if you're taking at 35, you got to be a lead back.
And I think he was a lead back. They just decided to throw the ball as often as they did because a lot of times they were losing football games.
Jamal Williams was their lead back last year. I mean, there's no question about that. He was the guy. He was the traffic. He was the touchdowns. Now, why did they move on from him and sign David Montgomery for more money? Maybe they think the tread was off the tire. It didn't make a lot of sense. By no estimation was he the lead back in Detroit. And that's he's a good player, but you got to be fair to the Lions fans as well. And they were expecting more, so the expectations always skew things.
All right, so let me get this right. Jamal Williams was their lead back, and he surely was. Many more carries, more yards, and more touchdowns. Even though DeAndre had 8, Jamal Williams had 17. Yeah, let's move on from both of those two backs.
Well,
let's let Jamal Williams walk out the
year.
door, and let's trade DeAndre Swift for a bag of beans and turn it over to a less talented running back from the Bears and an overdrafted running back in the first round. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's exactly how you want to take that next step up if you're the Detroit Lions.
That we'll agree on. I'll be the first to criticize that plan because that makes no sense. You got a guy who carried it, as you mentioned, I'm looking up 262 times, over 1,000 yards, 17 touchdowns. You got a great receiver, great third down back, and he's got one more year. I don't know why they didn't play it out. That I agree with you. Those are two different conversations in my mind. I think that division is a battle of bad general managers. They all have bad plans, except maybe Green Bay, and they screwed things up with Aaron Rodgers. So even then, that is the battle of bad general managers because Ryan Poles is a disaster. I don't know what the hell Quessie's doing in Minnesota. I don't know what he's doing. Nothing he does makes any sense whatsoever. And you just bring up Brad Holmes, and obviously Brian Gutekunst, screws up the relationship with maybe the best quarterback in a generation. Disaster. You talk about Howie Roseman having an advantage. That whole division is a disaster from a general manager standpoint.
That's the point I tried to make on Sunday was the Lions are supposedly this team that's ready to take this step up. Third best team potentially in NFC. Show it to me first. And I don't necessarily like the moves they made this offseason, one of which the Eagles will benefit from by getting DeAndre Swift here in town. All right, Jody McDonald, John McMullen, Mac. There he is. Another finely coiffed young man to join the show. Doesn't take much to be finely coiffed on this show. That would be Jeff Kerr from CBSSports.com. He's up next on Birds 365.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk Champion?
Really?
Yes, really, don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, mama!
She did it.
Again?
You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Johnny Mac and Jody Mac here with you on Birds 365. We get to talk some Eagles football and all things NFL as well, because he covers the entire league. CBSSports.com with our pal Jeff Kerr from CBS. No, you were down for day one at practice. No, this question is kind of for both you two guys, because I don't get anywhere near the practice field. Or I did one day last year, I should say. Excuse me. Any nerves when you get out there first day of practice? No, you're not playing. No, you're not being evaluated. I think Jimmy Kempski may have actually evaluate John, but that's a side story. Any nerves getting out there on the practice field, Kerr?
I don't personally. I mean, I think back to when I played and how nervous, excited I was when I played, and I'm sure the players feel like that. At least the ones I talked to did. But overall, it's to me, I love training camp. I think training camp's awesome, but I miss it a lot more at Lehigh. Sorry, Eagles, go back to Lehigh. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, that ain't happening. No, nerves would not be the proper.
No nerves, you, Johnny. All right, that's good.
What am I doing? What some knucklehead with a notebook? What do I got to be nervous about?
You're John McMullen. You were walking around like you own the place.
Come on, I tell you all the time the question I would ask, and you go, "Yeah, Jody, that's a dumb question." Come on, don't even bother with that. So you can ask a dumb question, McMullen.
Oh, you can have. I've asked many dumb questions. That's what I've learned. What has I guess for younger reporters, I mean, it can be nerve-wracking, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I've been to a few of these, so I know what to expect. Every once in a while, you'll get Derek Barnett last year. Really had a sort of testy back and forth with me. Nelson Aguilar back in the day.
That's the one I thought you were going to mention, Nelson.
Yeah. That can really intimidate people. Probably would have intimidated me when I was younger as a reporter. So I guess, but yeah, no nerves.
No nerves for either of you guys. All right, that's good to know.
John, I'm shocked you're not buying your Kelly Green jersey.
I'm surprised. I was assumed you'd be down there. It's like a Taylor Swift concert. These people are lined up. Josh Sweat gave the best quotes about that yesterday from my standpoint, because people know I don't care about jerseys. Jody knows, Jeff knows. I just don't care. Not good or bad. I don't get all the excitement over it. But Josh was like, yeah, I think they should be our
number one
primary jersey because they look pretty good. And then my buddy Rob Kessner tried to get him to, talk about Reggie White and Clyde Simmons and Jerome Brown. And Josh was like, hey, man, I'm going to be real with you. I wasn't a football fan growing up. He doesn't know. It's not. And he was telling the truth. And speaking of young reporters, there will always be somebody who asks Fletcher Cox. It's amazing, like clockwork during a bye week. What are you doing on a bye week? You going to watch games? Do you sit and watch it?
They don't watch football during their bye week.
I don't watch football. It doesn't watch football, and he's dead serious. He doesn't watch it. So they have a different mentality. But Josh was like, yeah, they look good, and that's the extent of it. There's no tradition or whatever. By the way, they won the Super Bowl. The Lombardi Trophy was out there yesterday. They won the Super Bowl in the nonsense, the midnight green that nobody likes. So, what would you rather have? Super Bowl in midnight green or nothing in Kelly green? I don't get it.
You talked to my dad. It's the identity.
People want the best of both worlds. They want the Super Bowl in Kelly green.
I don't get it. But anyway, maybe they'll see it. Not this year, but maybe they'll see it.
Well, won't we find out the dates today?
Probably. I mean, they're officially on sale today. So probably, yeah.
I have a feeling Christmas is going to be one of those days, by the way.
All right, since we went down this rabbit hole, and I was trying to avoid it because I know John doesn't care whit one about the color of the jerseys. But since you brought it up, Kerr, you're now going to have to answer the question. We all think the Eagles are going to be good. I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. I think the Eagles are going back to the Super Bowl. If they're going back to the Super Bowl this year, will they be wearing Kelly green or will they be wearing midnight green?
Now, they can't wear Kelly green in the Super Bowl.
No, they can. There is a provision where they can, but they won't.
What is the provision?
Why?
They have to ask the NFL for permission to wear an alternate jersey or a throwback for the Super Bowl because the Rams pulled it off a couple years ago.
Oh, they did? See, yeah. Jeff is I say, at any uniform questions, I tell everybody, ask Jeff Kerr, because I don't know. I did not know you could wear alternate jerseys in the Super Bowl.
Hey, John, did you hear? I'm a liar because I said the Eagles are bringing out an alternate logo for the Kelly green. And it's a familiar logo, but it's a different color. Well, the old Eagles logo is white instead of green. Everybody goes, no, they always had that. I'm like, they never had it officially. It was on the jersey, but it was never an official logo.
This is the kind of angst Jeff gets over this stuff.
Yes.
I'm like, you're arguing about logos, people.
Oh, I didn't argue on Twitter. I just argued to you.
Jeff's not lying to you. If he says it, he's the best uniform guy in the business. He's not lying to you. So
me in retirement, I'm gonna write for Looney Watch with Paul Lucas. I'm gonna go with him.
So here's the question I have for Mr. Uniform Jeff Kerr, Jeff Kelly Green. Late January at Lincoln Financial Field, they get a defensive stop late after kicking a game-winning field goal, kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs did to them. And the Philadelphia Eagles beat the San Francisco 49ers 38-35, and Jalen Hurts just outdoes Brock Purdy.
The 49ers are going to score 35 points?
That would be correct. Brock Purdy puts up
Sean Desai's going to get a
350 yards for Brock Purdy, but Jalen Hurts outdoes him and gets the late field goal and wins the game. Is there a hue and cry from those at Lincoln Financial Field? Kelly Green, Kelly Green, Kelly. Will they chant for it NFC Championship Day for the upcoming game 2 weeks later?
This franchise will, yes. I think if they know that's a possibility, they can wear them and get the Super Bowl they deserve in Kelly Green. Yes, but I like to tell people that when they say they won the Super Bowl midnight green, I'm like, that's great. They won 3 championships in Kelly Green.
That's
Yeah,
true.
if you're going all the way back.
Way back.
Even before John McMullen, Jody McDonald,
Yeah.
Jeff Kerr's time, you gotta do some serious going
My
back in time.
pop-up was at the 1960 NFL championship game.
Did the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets? I got to get Dinger on. Did they win?
They won it. They won a championship. Yes.
Yeah. See, so.
By the way, that's one of my sneaky favorite uniforms. Everybody
No,
when they did those colors,
the yellow ones.
Oh God, yeah.
Couldn't be worse.
Eagles
worse than that was the Packers in yellow. What
the
the
Eagles,
hell?
The
Eagles and Packers both as green as the day is long, wearing yellow.
For the fans coming to training camp, the Eagles have sort of these little setups, and one of the setups is
the helmet
the 4 different helmets, and they had the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets out there. I'm gonna tweet this, and maybe after I get it, Zander can put it up. But yeah, I that's the only one I took a picture of because I'm enamored by the Frankfurt Yellow Jacket. I don't care about the other ones.
You notice the black helmet isn't there.
Yeah. So it's goofy looking. That's probably why. But
Kevin Curtis had the game of his life in those.
Yeah, that's true.
And those atrocities. I have the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets helmet.
I know AJ got a look at them and said, nope, not wearing that.
People would buy it if he wore it, though.
Good on AJ. All right, Jeff Kerr, question for you. You were there practice 1, Jenny. You were there for practice 2. Everyone was there saying it was a little bit more boisterous head coach. That Nick Sirianni was doing some pretty good yelling and screaming at the players that, hey, we're not staying out here long. We better get it right. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect on a game day. Got to be perfect right here. Getting a little loud with his players. Method to his madness. Just in the moment coaching. What do you make of Nick Sirianni being more of a screamer and a yeller than he was either his first 2 years in the first couple practices of the year this year?
Well, we heard him screaming the first 2 years, just not with the megaphone, right, John? That was probably the best thing he's ever done. And the F-bombs are great. I mean, if you could record that part of the practice, it would have been great television. Now, Friday, John, didn't he do it during the...
Yeah, he did it. He did it in front of the fans. He did it in front of us. He knew it was a live camera period. He did it on purpose. Now, that was his first question.
That's the pandering.
Yesterday. And he denied it. He said, I'm not doing anything I don't normally do. Yeah, I'm going to call shenanigans on that. He's doing it purposefully, at least partially. Don't get me wrong. He was pissed off too, especially that first day, Jeff, where so many offsides, false starts. He was pissed off. So that was part of it.
Remember, John, he had the 4th and 8 and they had the pre-snap penalty and he just said, we're effing done. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. So it was part passionate, but it was also part he understands you got to battle complacency. He understands everybody's got this team going back to the Super Bowl. And the expectations are so large. He's trying to battle complacency as well. So he's trying to serve 2 masters, and he should, by the way. That's what he should be doing. That's what a good coach does.
I don't think that's going to be a problem. John, I don't know if you've been on X now, but did you see what they uncovered at the Rookie Talent Show last night with Jalen Hurts?
His lock screen?
His lock screen. Does that not surprise you? His lock screen is him walking off the field dejected after a Super Bowl loss?
No, Jalen's not one of the guys you worry about. And there's certain guys, and we know, Kelsey and Fletch and the core 4, so to speak, the core 5 with Dennis Kelly. I'm joking with Dennis Kelly. But
that was awesome, by the way, hearing Jason talk about Des and Lane Johnson the other day.
Yeah. There's certain guys you don't have to worry about, but there's more guys you do have to worry about than guys you don't have to worry about. And that's what I think Nick is combating, so to speak.
I don't think you have to worry about AJ Brown either. He has the right mindset. He goes say, look, we gotta earn the respect back. We there's always room to improve. He said, we all know what the goal is around here. And
the Alabama guys, Nick Saban raised the Alabama guys right. I don't know if that's that way in every other city, but I just wrote about this. Every Alabama guy is just locked in, at least the one the Eagles get. They don't
lose.
And the Georgia guys, I don't know. I get some, like the Georgia guys got a lot of swagger. They're like, they rightfully so.
Jalen Carter does.
Yeah, they're freaking great at the college level. But I don't get that same sense of all business all the time. Maybe I'm being unfair, but the Alabama guys are just like Landon Dickerson thinks he's the worst stinking player in the world. Literally.
And he's good.
He thinks he's awful. And it's like we're looking at him like cross-eyed. He thinks he's terrible. We know about Jalen. Devontae's like, somebody tried to get him down the Super Bowl route. He's like,
no, he doesn't want anything to. I remember I actually went down, sat, and talked with him, and he knows me pretty well. And he was giving me the typical one-sentence answers. I'm like, and he goes, he apologized. He said he wasn't feeling. That was the day he wasn't feeling well, but he said, I just really don't want to talk about this game. And he was playing it 3 days later. He just didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, those guys, they're Nick Saban. I don't know what he does, but he's doing things right.
Jalen still hasn't told me officially what rat poison was.
There you go.
Wow.
That's something to be proud of. All right. So maybe we're overanalyzing what Nick Sirianni did or didn't. The reason for his screaming in practice. Debatable. Not debatable. Sean Payton open mouth and inserting foot. What is he thinking about? I understand you want to take your buddy Russell Wilson's back and you want to show that you have faith in him and you're going to be his guy all year long. By completely throwing the former coach under the bus, then backing it up and running over again, and then backing it up and running over him again. And a lot of people still within that organization who were there last year. The worst run organization in the history of the National Football League. Nothing like influencing people and making friends. I'd say Sean Payton's era in Denver has gotten off to a pretty rocky start. Would you agree, Jeff Kerr?
Well, I'll say this. I've heard people in the Broncos organization aren't really that happy with what Sean Payton said.
I love Sean Payton.
I do too. I think Sean Payton has given me great answers to great questions over and I mean, was he wrong? No. So
Sean Payton once called me.
Yeah, he was wrong. He gave Russell Wilson a complete pass, free pass.
He gave Russell.
Do you think Russell Wilson didn't have anything to do with the Broncos last year?
I think it was all Nathaniel Hackett.
I do too. I agree.
So Russell Wilson's going back to MVP status this year, huh?
But Nathaniel Hackett was that bad of a coach.
He's going to be very good with Sean Payton. I think he's going to be very good. And if he isn't, hey, here's what I like about Sean Payton. Like I said, Sean once called me because he didn't like something I write. Number one, I love that guy. I love the guy that's picking up the phone to call you. But number two, we all complain about these stock answers as meaty people. I have a different regular. I like guys who are honest. He's honest. And Nathaniel Hackett was a freaking disaster as a head coach. The fact that he said that is so out of character for an NFL head coach. So I think there's two sides of the fence.
It's not.
You're not supposed to deal with that. No, I like when he tells the truth. I got mad when he apologized. No, tell the truth. He's got a lot of confidence in his ability. He knows he's going to do a better job with that quarterback and that offense. Is he going to be the same quarterback he was when he was winning the Super Bowls? No, he's probably not that guy, but he's going to be a heck of a lot better than he was last year. And Sean's a good coach, so they're going to be a heck of a lot better run than they were last year. That's easy. That's an easy bar for him to clear. But the fact that he told the truth, I love it. I get why other people, but then you have all these cookie cutter guys. They're all the same. Same stock. Nick, I love Nick.
They're behind just long stock answers.
Behind the scenes. Yesterday, if you go through his transcript, it was like, it's early. We got to wait for the pads to come
I
on.
I don't know when the pads are coming on.
Yeah, I don't know when the pad. That's true, by the way, but they're coming on Tuesday tomorrow. But yeah, all stock. I don't want that. People want that.
And I'll give Sean Payton credit for being honest. You're right. If Russell Wilson throws 3 picks opening day against the Raiders, I want him to be that same honest coach and going, yeah, my quarterback sucked today. If you're going to go down the I'm going to be honest road, which we would all appreciate, then you got to be consistently on that honest road. It's really easy to throw somebody who's out of the building under the bus.
He called out Drew Brees a couple times in his career.
Well, we'll see if he does it with Russell again this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's trying to. There's no question. Part of it is he's trying to build up the quarterback again. He's trying to build his confidence. I think that's part of it as well, and that's part of it. Just as I said with Nick, trying to fight complacency. It's not always about one thing. It could be about 2 things, 3 things. You're trying to rebuild the guy's confidence after a bad year. That's part of it as well. Nathaniel Hackett isn't there anymore. Look, I said George Payton should have got fired. I love George Payton, the GM out there, because I've known him for years. Minnesota. He was one of those guys with, he was sort of like a mini Eric DaCosta. He would get interview offers and he would turn them down. And then he picks a situation. He had one plan. Go get Nathaniel Hackett with Aaron Rodgers. And when Hackett didn't get Rodgers, he was screwed because he wasn't prepared. Rodgers runs the offense, not Nathaniel Hackett. That's why the Jets, Joey's a Jets guy. You don't have to worry about anything until Rodgers leaves. Then you better get a new offensive coordinator. God forbid he's got to work with Zach Wilson.
He may be your boy, John, but you can't do it in that order. You got to get Rodgers first. Then you sign.
I agree. I
agree with you.
Peyton screwed up by doing it out of order, and then he had to live with his mistake all year long.
And yeah, George, and I'm talking about George here, the GM. He should have gotten fired. And I love the guy, but that you can't do it. I agree. You can't do that. You can't hire a coach because a quarterback likes him, and then you don't get the quarterback. You can't do it.
No.
By the way, speaking of DaCosta, I still think Lamar handled that situation well in Baltimore, and DaCosta did, because once Hurts signed, all of a sudden those two were ready to talk business. It's like they had a barometer, and DaCosta said, "Yeah, we can do that." And that's
Eric's very good.
Yeah, he is. And Lamar, from what I was told, like him and DaCosta are on great terms. They always were. It was just they didn't know what money. Like Lamar wanted the fully guaranteed deal, and DaCosta didn't want to do the Deshaun Watson route. And where Lamar got blackballed or not, who knows? But at the end of the day, once Hurts got that deal done, those two. I mean, look, it only took them 10 days to get their deal done.
Yeah, experience matters at GM. And we're seeing it. I was just killing the NFC North guys before you came on, Jeff. Those guys are a freaking disaster.
Oh, they are.
People talk about Howie. Howie's kind of a disaster early in his tenure. Experience matters. Now Howie's
you got to get through the growing pains.
Yeah. So I mean that's a big advantage the Eagles have.
John, can you please back me up on this? Why are Eagles fans still talking about Budda Baker? That's not happening.
No.
He's not getting traded. I was told by Cardinals people he wasn't getting traded in May.
Yeah, I don't. Every big name. They want Jonathan Taylor. I got the Jonathan. You didn't get the Jonathan Taylor question?
Not yet.
I got him right off the bat that day.
Yeah. Speaking of saying stupid stuff, in addition to Sean Payton, I'm sure both you guys read last night that the Colts are actually thinking about trying to hold back Jonathan Taylor's pay. That he showed up at camp. He's on the PUP list. He's got an ankle, which he hurt last year in a game, had surgery on. But he's also complaining of back pain. And they're suggesting that they might put him on the non-injured football list, which means they could hold back his pay. Yeah, that's not good. Our boy Shane Steichen is stepping into a a dumpster fire there in Indianapolis. They're not good to begin with. Gardner Minshew could be their starting quarterback. And oh, by the way, your best player you're alienating by saying, we're not going to pay you because you said you wanted to be traded and you got a bad back that wasn't hurt in the game. So we're going to hold back your pay.
Yeah. Jim Irsay is a wild card,
Steichen
man.
in Indianapolis real fast.
If I was Taylor's agent, this is what I would tell Taylor. Show up, practice about 2 or 3 days, fake an injury, and then they can't do it to you.
Yeah. Well, you got to hold in like Daniil Hunter did. You got to hold in. You can't hold out because then you're just losing money. That's dumb. Holding out now because you can't waive the fines anymore.
John, did I tell you what I have to do now? Like when players like AKA want to be we got to do landing spots. I'm like, okay, this is Danielle Hunter probably isn't going anywhere, but I had to do it anyway. And then, of course, 12 hours later, they settle. I'm like, boy, I look stupid. I look absolutely stupid.
I feel bad when you have to do stuff like that.
I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Jeff Kerr, I saw Jordan Davis say, I'm wearing the same exact thing I did last year. I'm just in better condition. Well, that's nice to know he wasn't in the best of condition for last year, his rookie year. But if he's up to condition speed now, that's a good thing. I know John has both reported and tweeted that Jordan Davis playing a lot on the starting line in the 4-down lineman set, not the 5, not on the nose, that he's going to be a key guy and maybe one of their top snap guys in the middle. Does that surprise you that the Eagles are looking to expand his role when they used the 9th pick in the draft to take a defensive tackle? How are they going to get all these DTs time in the rotation?
They will. I saw that first day of camp. Like they have big plans for Jordan Davis this year. That's why I thought them bringing back Fletcher Cox is huge because remember at the time you weren't even sure you were getting Jalen Carter. Now that's a luxury. You got Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Fletcher Cox. I can't forget Milton Williams in this. Marlon Tio. I still can't say his name, John.
Marlon Tuipulotu.
Tuipulotu. Thank you. Yeah. It's funny because I said his brother's name right the other day, but I can't say it. Tuipulotu. But regardless, I will say this. I think the future of this is obviously Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. But Fletcher Cox is going to play a huge role for them this year in terms of getting Carter acclimated, a mentor to him, a mentor to Davis. They're going to be rotating the set. They'll be the main 3, but you're going to see a lot of Jordan Davis this year.
Yeah, I'm surprised how much they put him in the 40, how many reps he's getting, just because I'm so high on Jalen Carter. I'm like, it's a nice problem to have. Like Milton's a good player, and I get it. I mean, Milton's going to take a hit if these guys stay healthy. And I'm talking about Jordan Davis, Fletcher, and Jalen Carter. Milton Williams is going to take a hit. I mean, there's no question about it from a playing time standpoint. I had one guy compare him to Akeem Hicks. He thinks they're going to use him like Sean used Akeem Hicks in Chicago. And for those who don't know, and I said it for years, before the injuries took over, he was the most underrated player in football.
Akeem Hicks was good for a lot of years.
Unbelievable. He was right there as the second most unblockable defensive tackle in football behind you-know-who. He was an amazing player. Boy, I love Jordan Davis, but man, I don't know if he can become that.
I think Jordan Davis is going to be the key toward them stopping the run. I think they're going to be a much better run defense this year, if you want my honest opinion, because they're going to have Jordan Davis and Milton Williams rotating in there. And I don't know how Carter's going to stack up against the run year 1, but I'll tell you what, he's going to get to the quarterback.
Yeah. Jalen Carter, well, let's talk about the rookies. Jeff, I know you got to go. The last one from me, at Jeff Kerr, CBS on X. Follow Jeff there. Sidney Brown still on the 3rd team. Jalen Carter is still on the 2nd team. Calais Ringo still on the 3rd team. When are we going to see a movement here, a shift? Generally, you want to see these guys get You want to see Carter with the ones at some point. You want to see Sidney with the one. Kayvon Wallace is getting first-team reps.
I'll tell you what, they seem to be really high on Kayvon Wallace from what I was at. I don't see it, but what do I know?
When does this happen? When the pads come on? They got to figure out if these guys can play.
I hope it's tomorrow. I mean, I think I'm not worried about Carter. I'm not worried about Nolan Smith. I think they'll. I mean, we saw Smith on the first day. He was kind of relieving.
Yeah,
Brandon
Smith
Cameron.
has gotten it because Reddick has been out.
Yeah.
So Smith has gotten some extra reps with the first team. That, to me, he's going to be interesting when the pads come on for the opposite reason because, then he's got to deal with Lane Johnson with pads. That's going to be interesting.
But you're right, though. Like Tyler Steen, I want to see with the one. I know it's Jurgens' job to lose, but I want to see Tyler Steen with the ones.
Yeah.
I want to see Sidney Brown play with these guys. I noticed that, and we saw this in minicamp too, John. Like Sidney Brown was on the third team pretty much the whole time. It's like, well, when are you with the pads on? Like, when's he getting out there? Like, I have this belief Sidney Brown's going to help this team this year, and they can. I'm fine with Blankenship and Evans, but you drafted Sidney Brown to play this year.
All right, and so far in training camp, the most activity Derek Barnett has had was to take out his pen and take a pay cut. So we'll see what his.
Yeah, by the way, John, does that surprise you at all that they restructured that because it didn't to me?
A little bit, only because I think it indicates they want to keep him more than they want to trade him. And like, how many defensive linemen do you need? How many defensive front people do you need? They are so loaded.
It's like running backs. You can't have enough of them. You really can't.
They're pushing that theory. I mean, they it's a nice insurance policy to have. I'll say that if somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, Derek Barnett traded for a safety. Let's make up the trades now.
Good luck with that. We'll see if Derek Barnett is here or not. If he is, I'm not sure what purpose it's going to serve, but that's just me. All right, Jeff Kerr, always a pleasure, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks for coming in today.
Sounds good. John, hopefully I see you tomorrow. I'm looking forward to seeing them hit with pads.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
McMullen's predicting the pads coming on.
I'm predicting.
The Philadelphia Eagles, you do less with more than anybody in the
I'm
National
over John
Football League.
McMullen. It's not there's some ulterior motive in the prediction department. He's not a predictor. He's what's the word I'm looking for?
Soothsayer?
No.
No, not that. What's prognosticator, I should say.
Yeah. No, it's because the acclimation period ends and they're allowed to put on pads. That's why.
Unless you're the Kansas. Well, they started the week earlier.
They're allowed to practice more than they practice, but they choose not to. So
that's true. That's why I say it's not 100%, but my guess is that they will have the
actual pads. That means we may actually see Derek Barnett in pads. No, I don't think so.
How about Jimmy McMullen pads?
Jeff Kerr, thank you very much. We'll talk to you next week.
See you guys.
Mac guys
nice
here on Bird 365. Quickie timeout, come back. Couple more things I want to run by John before we get guest number 2 up next hour. That would be our very own Derek Gunn from Sports Take. He'll be jumping in with us in less than 20 minutes here on Birds 365.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got John McMullen and Jody McDonald here with you on Birds 365, hour number 2.
Jody, we got some breaking news.
Breaking news. Hold on. John McMullen with breaking news.
The Eagles will be wearing the Kelly Green throwback uniform October 22nd against the Miami Dolphins on Sunday Night Football, and November 26th against the Buffalo Bills. So 2 home games, Miami and Buffalo.
What time is the Buffalo game?
I believe that's a 4:25 game, but I don't have that. They don't have that in the release. Let me double check. I believe that's a big game. You know, obviously the Bills are projected to be a good team, so it's got to be the 4 o'clock. Got to be the 4 o'clock window. But let me double check it. Buffalo 4:25. Yeah, 4:25.
Makes sense. And there's a lot of things that go into deciding why, when, where, how. I'll just say this, a little disappointing. And Mother Nature would decide, hey, you can take any decision you want, and then Mother Nature's going to decide for you. Kelly Greens look best at 1 o'clock full sun on Sunday.
There you
color
go.
Just looks the best at 1 o'clock in the middle of a sunny day. So you got a night game for 1, and the late afternoon game in November is the Bills game.
Yeah, November 26th. So that should be after
second
Thanksgiving.
half of that game is going to be pretty much in darkness as well. So not the best weeks to select. I would like to see. But how many 1 o'clock games did Eagles play at home anyway?
Yeah, none, unfortunately.
Yes.
Washington, October 1st. And that is probably Arizona, December 31st. And then at the that's at the Giants, week 18, so you don't have to worry about that. So two home games.
They only got 2 1 o'clock games anyway. But I would like to see the Kelly Green in one of those 1 o'clock games, because that's when I think it would look its best. But much more importantly is how the Eagles play in the Kelly Green uniforms rather than how they look to Jody McDonald or anybody else for that matter. Dolphins and Bills, 2 good games, 2 important games for the Eagles this year. That's good to know. And, oh, by the way, if they win both of those games and they beat 2 good teams, Miami and Buffalo, some people think the Bills right there with the Eagles is after the Chiefs having as good a chance to win the Super Bowl as anybody else. I'm telling you, the hue and cry, Johnny Mac, they're going to want the Kelly Green for Super Bowl Sunday. I've got the Eagles.
Jeff says it's a possibility. I have no idea, honestly. I assumed you couldn't do it in the Super Bowl. He said
the Rams did.
Hey, you and I have talked about that a lot. I give Rube the credit because he said it first. I don't know, 10 minutes after the game is over, I can't tell you what they're wearing, so I can't tell you what the Rams were wearing. I don't care. So yeah, I didn't think you could do that. You know, from the NFL standpoint, look, hey, people, they're picking your pocket. I'm surprised they haven't gone the Oregon route. I've said this for years. Just, you know, let everybody wear whatever they want and have 80 different uniforms. If people are going to buy it, hey, if you want to go for the pick in people's pocket, just open it up.
Yeah, I'm a middle ground guy, and I'm certainly between both you and Kerr on the Kelly Green. You are, I don't give a flying, you know what. Jeff Kerr is basically obsessed with it. I'm somewhere in the middle, probably a little closer to Kerr, but not much. I'm really in the middle. I mean that. I'm not going to run out and get the Kelly Green jersey today. I'm not going to pull up video of the Kelly Green clad Randall. I'm not that moved by it, but I never really loved the midnight green, and I think my last name's McDonald, so I got to like Kelly Green. So, yeah, I have a rooting interest here, but I'm not going to obsess over it the way some people do.
I will say there's certain teams, and we all know that tradition matters to me. I think if certain teams in sports change their uniform, I would call it stupid. Yankees, Celtics.
Would you put the Cowboys in that conversation?
Cowboys, I would. It would be stupid to me from a branding standpoint. But if they did it, and I think there was a kerfuffle about the Yankees wearing weird hats or something during one of their whatever holiday things that baseball does. I get over it in about 5 minutes. I'd be like, well, that's kind of stupid. Why would you mess with that? But then I'd get over it in 5 minutes. But yeah, tradition matters, I think, for certain organizations. Other than that, I don't care about uniforms.
And the Eagles don't fall into that because they've changed their uniform plenty. Not the most in the NFL, but they've had a lot of different iterations since Jeff Lurie took over the team and moved away from the midnight green. But good to know he's moving back to it. And the two games that they are officially wearing it as of right now, Dolphins and Bills, October and November, you said, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Dolphins, October 22nd. Bills, November 26th.
All right. Do want to note the dates on those because, we're going to be going through the schedule when we get closer to it. And we'll revisit the old W's and L's. I'm going to give you a W right now. Write this one down, Johnny Mac, not Eagles related. The week before, this actually plays very favorably for the Philadelphia Eagles. The week before the Eagles play the Jets in New York, and I will be in attendance for that game. The Jets go out to Denver to take on the Broncos.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's a big. That's that helps the Eagles, I think.
It absolutely does because they're going to be up for that game. Leave everything. Aaron Rodgers is going to go nuts. He's going to want to throw for 450 yards against that Denver defense to stick it up Sean Payton's. You know what? That plays well for the Eagles. I think if I remember when you and I went through the W's and L's, that was your first Eagle L of the year.
Yeah, that was my first L. Now I got to rethink it. Yeah. I agree with you. They might be a little bit let down. But, they've never beaten the Eagles. So I think they'll be fired up.
Part of it, too. And my already on the record prediction, Eagles and Jets in the Super Bowl. So Eagles beat the Jets during the regular season to keep that streak going, having never lost to, don't count preseason, and that's a shame. Tradition like no other. The Eagles and the Jets in preseason, it's gone by the boards here, which ticks me off. I enjoyed going to the Eagle-Jet preseason game, almost always the last one of the preseason when they cut from 4 back to 3. Somehow the Jets got in the cutting room floor of the Eagles preseason schedule. That'll be that schedule. That record could still be in play when the Eagles and Jets meet in the Super Bowl. The fact that the Eagles,
that would
never
be
lost
beating them in the regular season and losing to them in the Super Bowl. Ooh, that would be a crushing blow.
That could keep us talking here in Philadelphia for years, not days, not weeks, not months, years. If it plays out that way. And we don't know that it will, but it might. And yours truly would be catching a big wagering ticket if the Jets and the Eagles are in the Super Bowl against each other. All right, one guy I wanted to ask you about, John, because you've been there at practice every single day. Again, you're reporting, everybody else is reporting. the ready to compete Georgia Bulldogs, specifically guys on a defensive line, all look good. The veterans are talking them up and the like. Keely Ringo gotten beat on some plays so far early here in camp. Some people speculating that he could jump right to the main outside backup cornerback if they're going to move Zach McPherson inside to be the number one slot corner reserve. Ringo going to take some time to develop on the outside here. Have all those Eagle youngsters at cornerback gotten off to a little bit of a slow start, or is that just me comping them to Slay and Bradford, which is probably an unfair competition?
Yeah, I mean, they're clearly nowhere, but those are two really good corners, and they're clearly nowhere near that. The goal is to get somebody up that maybe would be a little bit better equipped to play on the outside than Zach would have been. And they got a lot of darts. The most impressive has been Mekhi Gardner. I've said it pretty consistently, who's probably maybe the least ballyhooed of the whole bunch, coming in even less than Eli Ricks, because everybody knows Eli Ricks because he was such a high recruit coming out of high school. He went to Alabama. He's expected to be a top 10 pick last year. Some people, not everybody, but potential first round pick coming into the college season. Mekhi Gardner played at LSU, transferred though. He played most of his college career at Louisiana, I believe. So then he took the big step up to LSU. Boy, he's big and he's physical. He got his hands on Olamide Zaccheaus in one-on-ones. It was over. He rerouted him. And you can see what the Eagles want with these guys because they're all 6'2". It's like a zombie army of 6'2", long, lengthy corners with the hope that somebody hits. And, again, it's early. I'll use Nick Sirianni. No pads. But if you're talking about four guys: Greedy Williams, Josh Jobe, Calais Ringo, Mekhi Gardner, 5, Eli Ricks. So you're talking about five guys, because Josh has got to be put in that conversation. He's the only one who's not 6'2", but he's ahead. Of that group, the most impressive to me has been Mekhi Gardner. Now, Greedy and Josh Jobe are the top backups right now. But again, it's early. There's no doubt Calais Ringo is going to make this team. No doubt. The question is, how comfortable would they be putting him on the field early? If something happens, that's what they're trying to answer. Long term, they think he's got a lot of potential, but they got a lot of guys, and I don't think Zach is moving back outside. He's going to be the backup slot corner because they have a lot of darts to throw at the dartboard.
Right. And for all 5 of those darts, they better be able to play specials. That's going to be a key element as well. They'll be judged by their ability to step in if either Bradbury or Slay go down. That should be the most important thing they're judging. But they're all going to be counted on to be some kind of contributor on special teams. I can guarantee you that. All right, John McMullen, Jody McDonald, quickie timeout, and then we hope to be joined by none other than Derek Gunn, our buddy D. Gunn from Sports Take, going to jump in with us for a couple minutes here on a Monday on Birds 365.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Up and go Birds.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right, did you know I was the Mommy Slam Dunk Champion?
Really?
Yes, really don't sound so surprised.
Let's see it.
Oh, you're ready. All right, here we go. Let's hear the crowd. So go to right, I go to left, fake 'em out. Mama, go up, up, up.
She did it.
Again? You can't avoid gravity, but United Healthcare can help you avoid financial surprises by helping you compare costs and doctor quality ratings. United Healthcare.
Uh-huh. EAGLES. Eagles.
You got your Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365, and we are lucky enough to have Derek Gunn from Sports Take here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel to jump in with us on Birds 365 because he's as big a Birds expert as we can get on. D Gunn, here's where I'm starting with you today. Who on practice tomorrow, and John has already said he is all but guaranteeing, he hasn't gone the complete guarantee, but all but guaranteeing the Eagles going to pads tomorrow because they can. We'll see. The Eagles, for me, do a little bit less than everybody else. But who is the guy they're going to have to reel in that he's going to be so excited that he's in pads that maybe he'll be going a little too fast or a little too hard and tackling guys to the ground? Who is the Eagle player that if you're going to be down there at practice, you go, oh, I'm keeping my eye on him because he's going to play all out practice number one in pads?
I would say initially it would have to be Nolan Smith, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Nolan goes
choice.
a million miles an hour. That's a good choice.
Well, not only that, just based on comments that we've heard from him over the last couple of days about his disdain for the Cowboys. And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he the one that just recently said we have the greatest job in the world? We get to go out and hit bleeps. You know, I think that's great to have that attitude. But if I'm a coach, when I hear these things, I've got to have a little talk with Nolan.
Yes,
No, look,
yes,
okay.
yes.
I understand that you're a little overzealous, and rightfully so. You're being paid seven figures. You're fulfilling a dream of putting on a uniform in the National Football League. But don't knock out your teammates, man.
Yeah.
We need this. We need these guys from now until February. Please, just keep that in mind.
And you better damn well not hit number one, the red jerseys there. So he'd better be smart enough to peel off if he does get by Lane Johnson. But hey, with Nolan, you're right. Nolan's he's got that BG like energy, work ethic, all that kind of stuff. He's been tremendous, but I am interested to see him because when Lane gets the pads on, then it's going to be really difficult for a 238-pound guy on the edge. So that to me is going to be one of the more interesting storylines. You know who else has been kind of physical? Kayvon Wallace. And you know what? He's gotten some first-team reps out of it. Maybe Kayvon's the guy who
You know what, John? If anybody
physical
out there is trying to prove himself, prove his mettle, it has to be Kayvon. But considering what we've watched from him over the last couple of years, I'm a wait and see guy with him. To me, he's been a disappointment for the most part. He has shown flashes that he's capable of doing some good things. But and I understand he's had limited reps in his short time here in the NFL, but I need to see more consistency out of him. You know, I don't want to see some of the mental mistakes that we've seen in the past. You know, he's one of the few guys on the back end of that defense. If you go back and look at his contributions, he's one of the few guys on the back end of that defense that's a decent tackler. You know, tackling has been a big issue with this defense in general, but especially on the back end. Now he needs to elevate other aspects of his game, the mental aspect of his game, the focus of his game, the consistency in his game. You know, we heard the rumor over the weekend that Howie is looking out there at different safeties. And if it's out there now, then there has to be some truth to it. Will he pull another CJ/GJ? There's enough veteran presence out there in the open market that Howie could bring in here dirt cheap by NFL standards. I don't want the back end to be too crowded to the point where you're not letting some of the young guys get enough reps to develop to see what you have or maybe what you don't have. You know what I mean?
Brown still on the third team surprises me, D Gunn. It's like, all right, let's throw him in the deep end of the pool. Maybe that happens. You know, they tend to have that the first week coaches go back and they tend to flip things maybe a little bit and they say, all right, let's get these guys some reps, whether it's moving up from the third team to the second team to the first team. At some point, we got to see Sidney Brown, right?
Yeah, and John, coming into the draft, the one glaring weakness, as much as I love this game in college, his one glaring weakness was tackling. Well, that seemed to be an epidemic on the back end of this defense. So he's got to get the reps to get more of a focused mindset of wrap up. You know, you've got to do it. You can't just talk about it. You've got to do it. I love everything else about his game. His lateral pursuit, his straight ahead speed, his ability to cover. He doesn't shy away from physicality. But if the tackling aspect, especially when you think about some of the guys they could face this upcoming season, that you've got to get those reps in there. And hopefully he gets a lot of reps against the two teams they're going to practice against as they get ready for preseason games.
D-Gun, I want to get your opinion on it. And it's kind of looking into the crystal ball here from a reporter's standpoint about how Matt Patricia is going to have an effect on this team. Coach was asked about it. He said, oh, he's a great resource. And he doesn't have a defined role, or at least I don't, they can call it what they can call it. We don't know how exactly he's going to be used and what his responsibilities are going to be and the like. It's a good thing that Slate came out and said we had a good man-to-man, face-to-face, and worked out our issues, and we're both motivated for the same thing. We helped the Eagles win games this year, which is good, but going to be, I think, tough to figure out what Matt Patricia's doing for this team because you're not going to get a chance to interview him. He's not a coordinator, so he's not made available. How are you going to be able to find out what Matt Patricia is or isn't given to this team this year?
I don't know if we ever will. We've heard Nick Sirianni say he's a great resource for me. Okay, but if I'm deciding, I'm thinking, do I constantly have to look over my shoulder and second guess myself because I have another so-called defensive coordinator here? Now he's been billed as a special assistant to the defense. Okay, how many teams do you know that have two basically defensive coordinators on their roster? Especially a new guy. Your head defensive coordinator is a guy with a limited amount of experience, and the other guy's a proven commodity when it comes to being a DC, but he's your special assistant. Now, if I'm decide, I'm looking at this twofold. Number one, Patricia is a wealth of information for me. If I have any questions, I can go to somebody like a big brother and help me visualize and see things maybe that I'm missing, or maybe incorporate certain things that I might be missing. But on the other hand, it's like, do I constantly have to look this way instead of looking this way, you know, and worry about that? And when your head coach says Patricia is a great resource, I get that. The head coach is saying, okay, he's helping me understand better what I'm supposed to see. But isn't that what your defensive coordinator is supposed to do also? You know?
Yeah.
I think
it's interesting, D-Gun, because remember, They did the same thing on the offensive side with Marcus Brady.
Yes.
For Brian Johnson, because Marcus, now he doesn't have the experience Matt Patricia does, but he's been an offensive coordinator.
Yes.
And none of this stuff ever matters if you're successful.
No.
But if you're not, all of a sudden people start looking at, well, in the case of the offense, I'm not as concerned because I think they're going to out-talent people. I say it all the time. They're just so loaded on offense. It's not going to be bad. Defensively, there's a lot of wiggle room. Things could go wrong. The defensive front is tremendous. The cornerbacks are really good as long as they stay healthy. But Avante's already banged up. And he's coming off of surgery. It's nothing new. But he's still working his way back. But everybody else, that especially up the middle of the field, you mentioned with the tackling, the linebackers are unproven, the safeties are unproven. Some bad things could happen on defense.
Absolutely.
And who's going to get the blame for that? Sean Desai. You start getting the blame.
Wait,
saying
it's not going to be Jonathan Gannon. They can't blame Gannon if the defense goes out this year.
They can blame him if they want. It's not going to work this year because he's not here. But
he's got enough problems in Arizona.
Yeah, he's got a lot of problems in Arizona. Buda Baker's not one of them. He's not coming here. Yeah, I mean, the first thing is natural. Hey, who else do we have in the building? I thought it was a curious decision by Nick to set up the staff he did, because you have that extra layer that didn't exist when Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen were here.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can have too many cooks in the kitchen, but like you said, John, if they're winning, it's Camelot. Everybody's just happy. It's the system's working. And even if it's not working, John, I would be surprised if we started to hear grumblings about, people pointing fingers behind closed doors. I think the Eagles do a very good job of keeping a lot of extraneous stuff in-house compared to a lot of other teams in the National Football League. And let's go back. You guys mentioned Slay a little bit earlier. And let's go back to the so-called Slay getting the heads up that Patricia's coming here. Do you think in any way, shape, or form, if Darius Slay has said, I don't really want Matt Patricia here, the Eagles would not have brought him here?
No, none, zero.
If anything, Slay would have been shipped out before Patricia. Yeah. So he has to make it work. But that's an interesting dynamic to keep an eye on. It looks good on the surface right now, but how will Slay answer or respond if Patricia yells at him or yells at his grouping, especially if it's a hot day that things are not going well, game situation, things just aren't going well. Could we see heated verbal discussions on the sideline, things like that? I think that's one of the more interesting dynamics of all of this that's being assembled for 2023.
All right, so let me ask both you guys, because you both been reporters on the Eagles, pretty embedded. Has there been a player since Howie Roseman came back to power after Chip Kelly self-imploded? Has there been a player that you would say, yes, he has been consulted, he would be someone they would listen to, that Howie Roseman would talk to about a potential move before they made it, adding a coach, adding another player? Do you think that there's been a player during Howie's tenure that would have that kind of gravitas?
From Derek's perspective, I'm interesting. From mine, no. I mean, Jason Kelsey's talked about it. None. No, I mean, Howie's got to do his job. Jason has mentioned, a lot of people made a big thing about Jason liking Cam Jurgens and giving the approval. But make no mistake, I mean, Howie did the courtesy of saying, hey, we're going to draft this kid. Just want to let you know. Obviously, we still love you, all that kind of stuff. But bottom line is Howie's taking who Howie's taking. He's not worried about, what a player thinks. So I would say emphatic no there, but interested to hear Derek's take.
I think Howie and Nick do a great job of respecting the veteran presence in that locker room. I think if it got to that point, to answer your question, Jody, if it got to that point where Howie felt that there needed to be some soothing done, he has the utmost respect for the likes of Kelsey, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, that if there needed to be that discussion, he would have that discussion with them. One thing Howie has told me on a number of occasions and has tried to be consistent is he wants to have relationships with the players. Now, the bottom line is he's going to make the ultimate decisions, but unlike his predecessor, Joe Banner, who told you, I'm not here to be friends with the players. They have a job, I have a job. And sometimes there's no middle road between us. Howie tries to appease and be a liaison, so to speak, to the players as well as the coach. And that's good. That's a good vibe to have. But you look at it to what John's saying. John makes a valid point. The GM doesn't have to consult anybody. It's his job. He's getting paid to put the best product on the field that he can possibly put. And when it comes to the veteran players that I just mentioned, all of them are secure in who they are financially, professionally, that at this stage, as much as they want to win and get one more shot at that ring, they're not concerned about who the front office brings in here. All they're worried about is being the best that they can be to help this team be the best that it can be. Bottom line.
Yeah. And I think where the Eagles have an advantage, because it's kind of counterintuitive as an industry as a whole, because essentially what they ask NFL players to do is help mentor their potential replacements. So a lot of guys don't want to do that. We've seen it in the past, most notably certain quarterback situations,
right?
Because quarterbacks are so high profile.
Yes.
But it happens at every position. However, there are certain guys, and the Eagles have this luxury. Jason Kelsey loves to help younger players. Fletcher Cox loves to help young Brandon. All Brandon talked about the other day was that's his role now, to make sure these young guys keep it going, is what he said. Slay's like that. Slay's out there doing it for the entire NFL. Defensive backs are attacking each other on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. And Slay's playing peacemaker. I asked him about it.
Yeah.
They've done a very good job building the culture. Culture gets overrated, I think, a lot. People use it as a buzzword. But for the Eagles, they got a strong locker room, and they got a bunch of guys that just want to help younger players. And D-Gun's right. Part of it's security. Part of it, they've been so good.
Mm-hmm.
You think about the core four plus Slay. They've been so good. Potential Hall of Famers, Pro Bowlers. So they're confident in themselves.
Got their money.
But that's rare. That's not common across the NFL. Would you agree with that, Derek?
Oh, there's no question about it. And we hear constant bickering through the channels, all the time. But when you look at how this team is set up, the guys who are the veterans now learn their lessons well from those who preceded them. It's like a relay race. The baton has now been passed. And those players that John and I have just mentioned are players that know they are in the twilight of their careers. And they came oh so close. Those who were holdovers from 17 came oh so close to grabbing that second ring. So they want one more shot at that glory. They're not worried about their own identity. They're worried about trying to make this product as best as they can make it, because the journey they have to travel this season is by far much more difficult than the road they traveled just a season ago. So to get where they want to go, what do? They become not just leaders, but teachers. Every team's, MO is get as young as we can, as quick as we can, to keep this pool, this depth pool going. And we see the Eagles doing that with the likes of what they've drafted the last couple of years. But they've done a tremendous job of having the right veteran presence in place to nurture these young guys and to let them know this is what is established in this. These are the do's, these are the don'ts. You have to fall in line. There's no either or. This is how we expect you to fall in line. Young people, what do little brothers do? They try to follow the patterns of big brothers, whether right or wrong. In this case, That's what these young guys want to do. Who better to help them make the transition from the college ranks to the pros on how to be a professional both on the field and off the field than the 4 guys we just mentioned?
Yeah. We mentioned Nolan real quick as a follow-up because that was great insight from D. Gunn. Nolan yesterday said, and this is what I love about certain young players, the Alabama guys, Nolan.
Yeah.
He said, he told the bets, I don't know shit. Tell me what to do. That is, you know, for a guy who's had that success, 5-star recruit, coming into college, 2-time national champion. That's usually these guys come in like, I'm the big man on campus. He's like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. You know, guide me, which I think is awesome.
Helps when you're joining a team that went to the Super Bowl because they can go, yeah, I'm going to listen. They almost won the damn Super Bowl last year. Of course, I'm going to listen to what my veterans have to say to me. All right, last question, D-Gun. No, you got to run. And it's a Jody Mac fave, a hypothetical. And I like to ask these hypotheticals, and they may not even happen, but it helps me to get a point in. What happens when, at the end of this year, DeAndre Swift has a really nice year for the Eagles, and he and Jalen Hurts become tight? And he's a free agent at the end of this year. And he goes into Sirianni's office and says, hey, I hear that DeAndre's not close to resigning, that we don't value running backs like some other teams in the National Football League value running backs. I value DeAndre a lot. What we got to do to get DeAndre back here. Sirianni loves that connection between he and his players. Does he solicit Sirianni to go to Howie and go, hey, yeah, we got to open up the purse strings a little bit for DeAndre Swift? Our guy Jalen, who is kind of the face of the franchise, is going to bat for him big time. How's that work if DeAndre Swift has a big year and the Eagles, who proved this offseason they'll only go so far to pay for the running back position? How's that going to play between the most important parties of the Eagles?
Howie, like most GMs in the NFL, based on what we across the board, has a cap on what they're going to pay running backs. This is not a team that pays running backs premium money. He's not going to get Derrick Henry money here, that's for sure. You know, Derrick Henry may have seen his last big contract based. Yeah. You know, when the running backs in the National Football League, when you put them in pecking order and how they're paid, are just above kickers and punters, that tells you where the status is right now of running back in the National Football League. And if they were going to pay a running back, they would have paid Miles Sanders. I mean, think about it. He was already here, knew the system, had his finest year, showed he could be durable for the first time in his career. If DeAndre Swift has a big year, DeAndre Swift needs to put everything he can on tape to sell himself to the highest bidder. And let's see what happens after that, because I think basically Howie will go out and do exactly what he did this year. Go out and find the best available free agents on the open market in 2024, get them at a bargain basement price, and have Nick Sirianni implement them in his offense in 2024. I don't think we'll ever see the Eagles pay that kind of money that we've seen before for running backs. I just don't.
Yeah, I'm with you, D-Gun. There's two sure paths for Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift to not be here next season. One is obviously playing really poorly. The other is playing really well.
There you go. There you go. I would be shocked. I mean, they don't pay linebackers. They don't pay running backs. You know, and I don't think that's going to change one iota. Every team has its own formula in terms of valuing certain positions. And let's face it, you know, we've argued this point, and it has frustrated us for years that when it comes to the linebacker and the running back, this team thinks we can do it by committee. We don't need to go out there and find the next, you know, Pro Bowl linebacker or Pro Bowl running back to be successful. And how can you argue against that when you look at the recent success they've had?
All right, but when DeAndre Smith outplays the 49ers, how much money does McCaffrey make?
Like 16 million. Yeah.
When he goes out and outperforms McCaffrey in the NFC Championship game here in Philadelphia in January, going to be tough to say, we'll just let him walk. Howie will go find us another couple of running backs for under $200 million. A little bit tough. Miles didn't have the greatest finish to the season, which allowed people to go, all right, we weren't going to pay that much for Miles. It'll be very interesting to see if DeAndre makes a bigger argument with a better
DeAndre better find himself another San Francisco 49ers team.
Yeah. All right, we shall see. D Gunn, thanks, brother. Appreciate you jumping in. You and Rob this afternoon on Sports Take. Have fun. Tell Ellis we said hi.
Sure will. Thank you guys for having me on. Anytime, man.
Thanks, D Gunn.
Derek Gunn here with us on Birds 365. All right, Johnny Mac coming back. We got to put a bow on the show. Still a couple things I want to hit in with my partner coming up next here on Birds 365.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Mac guys, back to put a bow on the show here on Birds 365. For those of you just tuning in, go back and watch the first hour and 50 minutes. Pretty damn good with both Jeff Kerr and Derek Gunn jumping in with us. For those of you who did miss the first hour and 50 minutes, John McMullen almost guaranteed, he left himself some wiggle room, that the Eagles will be in pads for the first time tomorrow. Walk through today, no media observation, but full-blown practice tomorrow. And you can actually call it a practice because they could very well be in pads. They will be doing some 11 on 11, so it can be considered a practice. I asked Derek Gunn about who he wants to see hit, and he rightfully, wisely said, yeah, Nolan Smith, because he's playing at such a fast speed without pads on. See if he's as fast with pads on, and he's talking up hitting. Who else you want to see, Johnny Mac, when the pads go on?
I want to see the linebackers. I want to see N'Kobe and Nicholas Morrow and Christian Ellis. That's what my main focus is on because it's a concern. I want to see how that shakes out, especially because that's a physical position. Mm-hmm. And then, you put that on the other side, running back. So the 2 devalued positions that nobody cares about are the two ones you have to evaluate with pads on, ironically. So who's going to emerge? DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny. I think it's between those two to be the lead back. And I think Swift has the advantage, but Rashad Penny's healthy. Every day that goes by, that's a positive. And if he's healthy, he can run the football. We know that. We've seen it. So those are the two most interesting positions because there's question marks. We know the offensive line is good. You got to see if Cam Jurgens can hold it down, but they're good. They have options even if he doesn't. The defensive front, as I call it, I don't even call it line because they have so many variables, but the defensive front is incredibly deep, incredibly talented. They're going to be good. The quarterback's good. The corners are good. The receivers, at least at the top, are good. Some angst over the third receiver, obviously. It's a good team, but there's some clear concerns, and it starts at linebacker, safety, running back.
And the other thing we got as far as breaking news today was the Eagles have committed to wear their Kelly green jerseys at least twice in this upcoming season. October game at home against the Dolphins, November game at home against the Bills. If you dress well, you play well. I don't know if I believe that, and if I just throw it out there. Certain players think that's the case. Josh Sweat said, make the Kelly green. It looks good. Make it the number one uniform. Not happening this year, but we are going to get a chance to see it, which is fun. Looking forward to that. All right. Are you looking forward to, after you leave us tomorrow, to head down to the NovaCare complex, talking to Brian Johnson? You've been there, you've watched practice, communication between the coordinators and the players and the like. I know it's a couple of days and they're going to be judged over a nice lengthy period of time, not the first 3 days of practice. But have you been able to pick up any trends or traits on the way the new coordinators here in Philadelphia are going to do their jobs this year?
A little bit. Like I said, the two most obvious, if you want to look at one, getting Swift involved more in the passing game, and we'll see if that continues or if that's, I always bring up back in the days of Donnell Pumphrey and Darren Sproles. That was a big emphasis until they put the pads on. So when the pads comes on, things can change. Defensively, I mentioned the toggling between the 50 and 40 fronts. There's been more 40 than last year, and Jordan Davis being involved is one of the biggest surprises of the early portion of camp. Just how significantly he's been involved with the 40 fronts. I wasn't expecting that. So maybe that means less 5-man fronts, more 4-man fronts, or maybe things change if they figure out, hey, guess what? Rashad Penny's gashing us. He's healthy and he's gashing us. So we better get that extra body up front.
All right. Last question. And again, your powers of observation are very good, but I don't know if you picked up on this or noticed this. How often have the Eagles, offense against defense, run 12 lineups, dual tight ends? And when they do, if they've got a back in the game, that means no third wide receiver. Have the Eagles on any preseason practice plays had 3 linebackers on the field? Has there been one play where they've had 3 linebackers on the field?
No. Not much 12 either offensively.
They haven't run much 12, huh?
That's
one of those things to be gotten to.
Yeah, that will be gotten to when they'll have some heavy run practices where they'll put more 12, and they did the day 2. They'll get to that. They're not getting to what you just said, the 3 line. Now, occasionally a goal line, you might see it, but very
that's it. Inside the 2-yard line, you might
very,
get 3 linebackers.
Very rarely. Or, if it's 4th and 1, maybe, they're doing at midfield for the game, they might put an extra. But even that, they're going to go,
They're going 5 defensive linemen.
Yeah, so
they're not adding an extra linebacker.
It just doesn't happen anymore. And yet, Jody, you hear, oh, they're playing a 3-4. They're playing a 4. It just drives me nuts.
It's ridiculous. Not even close. That's just not the National Football League anymore. We grew up with 3 linebackers on the field. Shoot, 4 linebackers on the field when they actually ran 3-4 defenses, even though outside linebackers.
They'll tell you Hassan Reddick. Some people will tell you, well, Hassan's a linebacker because he's listed as a linebacker.
Yeah.
So if Nolan Smith and Hassan Reddick happen to be on the field at the same time, oh, they got 4 linebackers on the field. No, they don't.
No, they don't. And saying anything else is just disingenuous. All right, so the deal tomorrow, you're going to hang for the start of the show and then zip down to South Philly?
Zip down. Hope, I'm making a plea to the, I guess, New Jersey Department of Transportation to please clear up 42 a little bit so we can get into Philadelphia.
Under construction or what's the...
Oh, construction's unbelievable. Yeah.
Sorry
just
about
constantly.
That. If that's the way you're going to be going. It may the bridge be less traffic full on your way in. And it is Brian Johnson tomorrow. So then John will be back on Wednesday to tell us if Brian Johnson lent them to any great insights and also share what went down in Tuesday.
I got a feeling we're going to get a couple. It's early from Brian Johnson. It's early.
No. And
we're getting a lot of that.
He's not lying. You said you liked Sean Payton because he tells the truth.
That's true.
If Brian Johnson says it's early, guess what? He's telling you the truth. It's early.
I'm not picking on Brian. Nick said it 57 times, and Sean said it, I think, 53 times. So it is early. But yes, at some point, it's interesting when early will turn into not early. Yeah. It happens quickly.
It's now. Don't think we're getting a now just yet, but we'll be interesting. All right, brother. I will be back here tomorrow. You'll be back here for a period of time, and then you got to head over to the NovaCare complex. But you and I start the show at least together tomorrow. You promise that everybody you'll be here for the start of the show tomorrow?
Well, I'm day to day, but yes, barring
there's no 42 traffic excuses to be here for the start of the show.
No,
maybe to get the Eagles site, but
who knows?
You should be able to make it here tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
I might blow out an Achilles. You never know.
You might have a honey-do list. You have to turn in and see if McMullen's Achilles is intact. Yeah. Tomorrow, back here on Birds 365 in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.